I never imagined I'd be the one to pull the plug on my own flesh and blood, but there comes a point where silence turns into complicity and neglect becomes a thief stealing your peace. My name is Margaret. Call me Maggie if you like, though these days I prefer the full weight of it. I'm 72, a retired nurse with a spine forged from 40 years of night shifts and a heart that's seen enough loss to know when to guard itself. My story isn't one of fireworks or shouting matches, it's quieter, colder, like the draft that sneaks under a door you've left open too long. But it ends with me closing that door, firmly and forever. It started innocently enough, as these things often do. My husband, Tom, passed away 6 years ago from a sudden heart attack, gone in the night, leaving me with our modest two-story house in suburban Chicago, a pension that covers the basics, and a hollow ache that time only dulls but never erases. Our only child, my son David, was 45 then, married to Sarah with 2 kids, little Emma, who was 8, and Jack, 5. David had always been the dreamer type. Charming, full of big ideas, but short on follow-through. He'd bounced from job to job, real estate agent, app developer, even a stint as a life coach. Sarah worked part-time as a receptionist, but money was always tight for them. When their landlord hiked the rent and they faced eviction, I didn't hesitate. "Come stay with me," I said over the phone, my voice steady like it was during hospital codes. "It's temporary. Get back on your feet." They moved in that summer, boxes piled high in the garage, kids' toys spilling into the living room. I cleared out Tom's old office for the children and turned the basement into a makeshift apartment for David and Sarah. I cooked meals, babysat the grandkids after school, paid the inflated utility bills without a word. It felt good at first, purposeful, like family was supposed to be. The house, once echoing with emptiness, filled with laughter and chaos. But temporary stretched. A year became 2, then 4. David's big break never came. Instead, he'd lounge on the couch, scrolling job sites half-heartedly, or disappear for networking that smelled suspiciously like happy hour. Sarah picked up extra shifts, but her exhaustion showed in snapped comments and forgotten thank yous. The kids were sweet. Emma with her gap-toothed grin, Jack with his endless questions, but even they started treating the place like their kingdom, leaving messes I'd clean up. I'd find myself tiptoeing around my own home, eating dinner in my room to avoid David's monologues about how the economy was against him. The neglect crept in slowly, like mold in the walls. At first, it was small. David forgetting my birthday, Sarah not bothering to ask how my doctor's appointment went. My arthritis was flaring, but who cared? Then it escalated. I'd come home from my weekly bridge game to find the kitchen a disaster, takeout containers everywhere, no one lifting a finger. "Mom, we're tired," David would say, not looking up from his phone. "You got this, right?" I'd nod, swallow the resentment, and scrub. I paid for everything: groceries, internet for David's online courses, even the kids' school supplies. In return, silence on Mother's Day, a half-hearted thanks at Christmas, and the growing sense that I was invisible, a live-in maid, not a mother. The breaking point came on a rainy Tuesday in October. I'd spent the day at the community center volunteering, my joints aching from the damp. I shuffled in, dreaming of a hot bath and my favorite mystery novel. The living room was dim, lit only by the TV's glow. David sprawled on the recliner, Tom's recliner, the one I'd bought him for our 30th anniversary. Sarah was on the couch, scrolling her phone, while the kids played video games on the floor. No one looked up. "Hey everyone," I said, hanging my coat. Silence. I cleared my throat. "I made lasagna last night. There's leftovers if anyone's hungry." David paused his show, finally glancing my way. "Mom, we're ordering pizza. The kids don't like your lasagna, too bland." Sarah chuckled without looking up. Emma piped up, "Yeah, Grandma, it's kinda gross." Jack giggled. I stood there, rain dripping from my umbrella onto the hardwood floor I'd polished that morning. No "how was your day?" No "thanks for everything," just dismissal, like I was the hired help interrupting their evening. That night, lying in bed, the hurt crystallized into clarity. This wasn't family, this was exploitation. I'd given them a safety net, and they'd turned it into a hammock. The next morning, while they slept in, I sat at the kitchen table with my coffee and a yellow legal pad. I listed it all, the bills I'd covered, $2,500 easy between utilities, food, and extras, the chores I'd done, the space I'd surrendered. Then I called my old friend Louise, a retired paralegal from the hospital. "Maggie, you need a lawyer," she said bluntly. "No lease means they're tenants at will. You can evict." I hesitated. Evict my own son? But the word neglect echoed in my mind. Neglect wasn't just ignoring me, it was them neglecting their responsibilities, their gratitude, their lives. I found a no-nonsense attorney named Carla Ruiz downtown. She was sharp, in her 50s, with a gaze that could cut glass. "You've got ironclad ownership," she said, reviewing my deed. "No contributions from them? Perfect. We'll serve a 30-day notice to quit." We drafted it that afternoon, formal language about terminating occupancy, demanding they vacate. I added a clause for back rent, fair market value for 4 years, prorated. It came to over $100,000, but Carla said it was leverage. "They won't pay, but it'll wake them up." I didn't warn them. That evening, as David rummaged in the fridge for beer, my beer, bought with my money, a process server knocked. A young man in a suit handed David the envelope. "You've been served." David's face went slack. What the hell? He ripped it open, eyes scanning. Sarah emerged from the basement, kids trailing. "Mom, what's this?" I stood in the doorway, arms crossed. "It's an eviction notice. You have 30 days to find a new place." The explosion was predictable. David yelled, red-faced, "You're kicking us out? Your own grandkids? After all we've done?" What they'd done, I couldn't say. Sarah cried, "This is cruel. We have nowhere to go." The kids looked scared, Emma clutching her doll. I felt a pang, but I held firm. "You've had 4 years rent-free. I've paid for everything while you've done nothing. No more." David stormed off, slamming doors. Sarah begged, "Please, Mom, reconsider, for the kids." I shook my head. The kids deserve parents who stand on their own. This ends now. The next day, following Carla's advice, I changed the Wi-Fi password. It was in my name, canceled the streaming services, and called the utility company to put everything solely on my account. No more family plan. David's work-from-home setup? Gone. He had to hotspot from his phone, grumbling about sabotage. Sarah's grocery card, linked to mine, declined at the store. She texted furiously, "Mom, the card isn't working. We're at checkout." I replied, "It's frozen. Buy what you need with your money." They scrambled, eating cheap ramen and arguing in whispers. Over the 30 days, the house became a battlefield of silence and pleas. David job-hunted frantically, landing a sales gig. Sarah picked up full-time hours. They packed boxes sullenly, the kids asking why Grandma was mad. I explained gently, "It's time for your mom and dad to have their own home." Privately, I cried, once in the shower where no one could hear, but I also felt lighter, like shedding a weight I'd carried too long. On day 30, a moving truck backed into the driveway. David loaded boxes, avoiding my eyes. Sarah hugged the kids goodbye to me, tears streaming. "I'm sorry, Mom. We took you for granted." I nodded. "Learn from it." As they drove off, the house felt vast, empty, but mine. I changed the locks that afternoon and sat in Tom's recliner with a cup of tea, the remote in hand. No more tiptoeing, no more neglect. Months later, David and Sarah rented a small apartment. They visit now, as guests, on my terms. The kids run in for hugs and we bake cookies together. David even apologized, sheepish. We needed that kick. I rebuilt my life, joined a book club, traveled to see old friends. The house is peaceful, bills are low, and my heart, it's healing. Turns out, evicting neglect was the kindest thing I did, for all of us. If you're in a similar spot, remember, your home is your sanctuary. Don't let anyone turn it into their entitlement.